happening? What's happening? What's happening? I don't know if y'all hear me. I just want to make sure y'all are. Y'all hearing me? Are y'all hearing me? Are y'all hearing me? What's going on with you? That's right, we live. What's happening, Junior, LJ? What's happening, Don? Happy birthday. We are live. Today we're talking about the blues is sonic folklore. This is part one. Uh the folklore and the blues. And what do I mean by sonic folklore and why is that important? And why are we starting that today? So next week, June 1st, starts Black Music History Month. And so I want to discuss Black Music History Month, how it starts. It did actually, I hate to use the term, but I'll say rebrand, if you will, with Obama, but it starts with Jimmy Carter. But I want to start by discussing that and then go into, I'm going to show the picture again. Blues is Black sonic folklore, the folklore and the blues. And you all have been rocking with me for a long time. Those of you that have been, we've been discussing the folklore in blues, the patterns of tradition in blues, the engagement, agreed upon engagement, and likewise in blues. Today we want to focus specifically on how can I word this? Well, you know what? I'm just going to word it. All right. I'm just going to word it. I want to start with James Brown and Jimmy Carter. Okay. The reason why I want to start with James Brown and Jimmy Carter is because we're kicking off Black Music Month by, I guess, I want y'all to know who are the brainchilds behind this. Now, it wasn't Jimmy Carter and James Brown, but Jimmy Carter implements this. This is the brainchild of these three human beings. Black Music Month comes from music mogul and rock and roll Hall of Famer, or Hall of Fame inductee, if you will, Kenny Gamble. And just so you all know, Kenny Gamble was born August 11th, 1943, in Philadelphia. He is a composer and producer. He is known for Moulin Rouge. He's known for Species. He's known for New Jack City. He's been married to Fatima, I want to say that correctly, since 1990. He was also previously married to D.D. Sharp. Okay? Now, that's fine. Sure. I don't disagree. However, I'm just reading you his background. In one of his backgrounds, I want to read to you some of the songs that he's known for, because I find that for him it's important. As an artist and writer, he worked with the Intruders, Jerry Butler, The Iceman Cometh, Dusty Springfield, A Brand New Me, The Intruders Again, When We Get Married, Wilson Pickett, Nancy Wilson, Laura Nyro and LaBelle, Howell Melvin and the Blue Notes, I Miss You, Joe Simon, Drowning in the Sea of Love, the OJs, Backstabbers, Billy Paul, 360 Degrees of Billy Paul, the OJs again, Harold Melvin. I mean, there's quite a few. People's Choice, Lou Rawls, Teddy Pendergrass, the Jacksons, Patti LaBelle, not just the LaBelles, the Jones Girls, right? So I wanted y'all to be aware of Kenny Gamble's credentials as a authority on Black music, as a writer, composer, and practitioner of Black music. And I guess Diana Williams, I hope I'm saying her name correctly. She is an American radio and music industry professional. She's a journalist, a community activist. She's an artist development and media coach and a documentarian. She's also a founder, or with Sheila Eldridge in 1990 launched, the Association of African American Music Foundation to promote and preserve Black music. And lastly, Ed Wright, or DJ Ed Wright, as they call him, from Cleveland, a trailblazing entertainment industry executive whose multifaceted career encompassed radio programming, music promotion, artist management, and private consulting for film and television. Okay, he died in Cincinnati at 82 years old some years back. Now, one of the reasons, let's don't forget Sammy Davis. Well, here's my question. What Sammy Davis did meet with Nixon, but what does that have to do with Black Music History Month? See, there's a reason why I'm speaking about this. What you're saying is not incorrect, but what does that have to do with these three people creating Black Music History Month, bringing it to Jimmy Carter, and then Jimmy Carter ultimately, I guess, putting it into existence, if you will. The first celebration was held on June 7th, 1979, okay? Jimmy Carter and the First Lady Rosalind Carter hosted a dinner and concert on the White House's South Lawn with performers Chuck Berry, Billy Eckstine, Evelyn King, and Max Roach. Evelyn King is B.A., and she's still getting busy today. Max Roach left what could be considered one of the so many people left great music catalogs, but I think Max Roach, as it comes to the context and deep rootedness of his music and beliefs, he left such a imprint on music as revolution, music as message, right? Now, so good folk, you're not wrong about that meeting, right? Yes, we won't forget that, and I thank you for bringing that up, right? But what the reason why I'm talking about Jimmy Carter and showing him with James Brown, hey little Frosty, showing him with Evelyn King and all these folk, is because this is the establishment of Black Music Month, something that was deemed necessary, and its initial celebration starts at the White House with Jimmy Carter in 1979. Next week. Now, I'm going to have so many pictures. Well, I don't want to say I have so many pictures. I don't have so many pictures, but I have a couple of images that go with this. However, what part of what we're discussing is blues as a time capsule, if you will. You know I'm big on blues ecology, blues narrative, soundscape, landscape, interaction, all these great words and ideas. But it's also time lapse, right? So in any given space with the blues, that's right, any given space with the blues, we're talking multi-generational, we're talking genealogical, dimensional, there's just so many things happening, and regional. So now, next week, I believe, will be June 7th, and we're looking at, man, 1979, I can't even calculate that right now, but we're looking at the timeline of just the celebration. Now, with that timeline, I want to look at how the blues plays into this. Yes, blues epistemology. So, well, I don't want to say a lot, but my ideology of blues ecology is informed by blues epistemology. I would say I was working on this before I found the great late Clyde Woods, Dr. Clyde Woods, but I would say yes, blues epistemology has encouraged me and inspired me to step out of how I was looking at and look at it slightly broader. So yes, blues epistemology. That's right. You know what? It's every month for me too. We're gonna have a great time. That's right. That is right. That is right. I'm with you. I'm with you. I'm with you. So now, with that being said, right, there's a couple of things that I would like to discuss. If you see me turn to the side, I'm talking. I'm looking at my notes, because when we talk about the blues as Black sonic folklore, a call and response across time and space. Actually, I like that. Y'all think that's what we should name this? A call and response across time and space. So let's change it to that. Let's do that right now. All right. I like that. I like that. Let's see. I'll put it up here while we're discussing it. Well, it is part one, the folklore and the blues, but I like call and response across time and space. And I'm gonna write that in right now. And for those of you that are new, first of all, make sure that's not spelled wrong. Okay. I think it's weird that I spelt "and" in one space, then I put the symbol for "and" in another. Let's change that real quick. All right. So now, for those of you that are new, this is a conversation. I'm not just lecturing, all right? This is a conversation. You hear me? So please jump in. My 94-year-old father lost his blues music collection. I'm so sorry to hear that. I remember Katrina. And it's not funny, but that's part of blues ecology. And we're going to get to that later on when we discuss blues. I have a name for it. I want to give you the name because, I like naming things, It's after Rube Lacy. It's a little further down. Okay, so in segment 2, when we get to segment 2, we'll be discussing blues, environmental blues. All right? We'll be discussing environmental blues. But before we get to environmental blues, right? We're honoring in this two-part series, and maybe more than two. We might rock this the entire June. So for some of you that know this already, bear with me. For those that are new, I'm saying this for you all. But from Black History Month up until Sinners, our discussion has been blues as a folk music, blues as the oral history, uh, and how it functions in those spaces. Blues as an engagement, the idea of blues ecology and the blues narrative. That's what we've been kind of discussing all this time. This evening, we're discussing folklore and blues, and we're going to keep that discussion through June as we bring it from past to present to future, maybe taking a little ideas from Afrofuturism, particularly keeping it in the Black Southern, indigenous, Afro-indigenous, some people say ideology, because blues is a Black American experience shared across the board because many people are informed by it. I was in New Orleans right before Katrina burying my dad. New Orleans plays a humongous role in your oh, really? So what bar was it? And you should contact me. So I would like to talk to you about that bar. I would say that New Orleans plays a big part in the blues. I will be interviewing Chris Thomas King again. You should go check out my early interview with him when we were discussing who has the right to say what the blues is. And we'll be talking again. He stands on the blues, being of Louisiana and New Orleans born. There's Storyville, there's Treme, there's Congo Square. But then there's also Big Bill Bronzy, who explains that the blues of New Orleans and Louisiana is different than the blues of Mississippi. Big Bill Bronzy explains that the blues of Mississippi is of the cotton fields, and that's the blues that we think about when we discuss the blues, the acoustic blues, the sharecropping singing, the field holler singing, right? I got to figure out how to connect Instagram to this feed because people are talking to us on Instagram. I'd imagine because we should be live on Instagram. I'm gonna take a look at that real quick, y'all, to see what's going on. We should be live there. Yeah. Oh, well, anyway. So, according to Big Bill Bronzy, right, the blues of Mississippi is the blues of cotton picking and other type of, I could say, extreme agrarian labor, right? And that the sound of New Orleans, which the musician and scholar Chris Thomas King says the blues come from there. He speaks of another type of blues as risque, right? So both of them are actually in agreement where there's two separate kinds of blues, right? Blues in New Orleans does have a lot of brass instruments. So now I'm going to quote Big Bill again when he speaks on New Orleans folk saw bales of cotton as it traveled through, and they saw different things as it traveled through. They dealt with sugar canes and other things, so they would be singing a different kind of blues or playing a different kind of blues. Brass, excuse me, yes. We're in the Mississippi, Delta and Hill Country, because people think that the Mississippi is one thing, but it's more than one thing, right? meaning there's the Delta, there's the hill country, there's forced and exploited labor, and then there's black ownership of land. You get quite a few things in Mississippi, but you also get a different sound. I often refer to Terry Harmonica Bean and what he shared with me in my interviews with him. I often share my interviews with Miss Silver Shirley and Jerisa, who's a blues musician, and then there's Miss Rhonda Lynn and quite a few people who share Mississippi blues with me. But then there's also brothers like Bruce Barnes of New Orleans, well, from Arkansas, but lives in New Orleans. So he kind of brings the entire scope, and he also is good when we discuss environmental blues. But now, with all that being said, I kind of want to discuss, and I'm gonna start with Tommy Johnson, right? And now Tommy Johnson predates Robert Johnson, okay? And just so you know, I'm drinking what is called Happy Coffee, is mushroom coffee. My wife sells it, so if you're interested, jump on and get some. Tommy Johnson predates Robert Johnson, and he is the first to claim. And actually, I don't know if Robert Johnson ever claimed this, but I believe Tommy Johnson claimed to go to the crossroads and sell his soul to the devil. Okay. I wouldn't say this is the first, well, it's not the first time we hear this. The idea of selling one's soul to the devil for music goes back to the 1600s, maybe a little bit before then. However, when it comes to the blues, everybody accredits that to Robert Johnson. Tommy Johnson predates him. Also, Petey Wheatstraw predates Robert Johnson, and he's one who also goes under the mantra of this idea of selling one's soul to the devil. He's known as the devil's son-in-law, and if you remember, Dolomite did a movie called Petey Wheatstraw, the devil's son-in-law. So now you can see how, and this is what I'm getting to, blues, that's folklore, right? That's folklore right there. That's the travel of a story throughout time right there. So now when we're talking of, I got a little ride. When we're talking of blues as black sonic folklore, call and response across time and space, the idea of Petey Wheatstraw, the idea of Tommy Johnson should give you or inform you or begin to show you, if you will, how this works, right? So, the lived experience, and when we're going to talk about some lyrics, because the lived experiences encoded in the lyrics, right, in the blues, right, is a time capsule. A sonic archive of Black life is what we can refer to as the blues. I will say that again. Matter of fact, I will put that up on the screen, okay? A sonic archive of Black life is the blues. I will specify it by saying a sonic archive of Black American life, right? Sonic archive of Black American life is the blues. Actually, you know what? Let me put that better, because that sounds, it doesn't sound like proper grammar. So this is how I'm going to do that. Okay? I think that's better. A sonic archive of Black life equals the blues. Okay? You know something? I'm so happy you said that because Blind Lemon Johnson is someone we're going to be discussing as well in a few. Brother Brock, what's happening? What's happening, Brother Brock? So we're going to be speaking about Blind Lemon Jefferson as well in this, okay? So again, Sonic Archive of Black American Life is the blues. And I just want to be very clear about that because each verse, each song, each performance holds memory, holds migration, holds warning, holds meaning. Each lyric, all of these things, right? So what do we mean? What do I mean by folklore and blues? Which I have explained a couple of times, but I want to go. I want to kind of lay this out, right? Because folklore is not myth, and it's definitely not a relic, and it's definitely not primitive, and it's definitely not obscure in the sense of how obscure has been used in some senses, right? And it is not folklore is not fairy tale in some cases. At least when we're discussing the blues, that's not what I mean. I don't mean something that's a relic of old that is vanishing, right? Because when it comes to, in some cases, acoustic blues, it is treated in some spaces like a relic, right? Or a specialty. A novelty is a better word. And blues is not acoustic blues, if you will, is not a novelty. Okay, but what it is, blues as folklore, folklore in the blues. Okay, excuse me. It is a shared cultural knowledge. It is practice and tradition of a people. It is the travels through oral storytelling. It is the call and response to improvisation, the metaphors, and repetition. The blues carries the folklore across spaces, right? From the Delta, not just of Mississippi, but was it 9 or 13 states? I keep forgetting. But that entire region, Louisiana, Mississippi, Tennessee, Texas, Alabama, and we didn't even mention the Piedmont and the Southeast, the Northeast. But if you want to just keep it simple to the Mississippi River, the Ohio River area, from the Mississippi Delta to the Chicago South Side, but it's also in New York and it's also on the West Coast. A lot of people don't talk about the migration to the West. Right now, I'm going to go back to that picture of Tommy Johnson because he's who we're starting with, right? Yes, he's who we're starting with, right? Correct. Now, so I spoke a little bit about that earlier on. So you can go back through and do the episodes and take a look. And if I've missed anything, please chime in, right? But yeah, absolutely. That's part of it. But I'm going to get back to Tommy Johnson. As you know, I'm trying to give context to set this up. But those of you who are new will have to understand, those who do this with me every week know that sometimes I just move that picture so I can talk to my people and my tribe, right? And what I want to discuss is the idea of the Western. And when I'm saying Western, I don't mean European Western, but the West of the Americas migration. A lot of times when we're speaking of Black American movements on the Americas and Black American cultures on the Americas, Afro-Indigenous, Black Indian, whatever it is you want to term it, it's usually the Midwest, North Midwest, or Northeast. We rarely discuss the movement West or Northwest. right? From Seattle, California, and that whole area. You know, we don't speak about Boley enough, but we speak about the Trail of Tears. We do speak about Oklahoma. We speak about Tulsa all the time, but we don't speak about Boley enough. But we don't speak about California and Seattle and that whole area where tons of the Bay Area, right, where tons of Black folk relocated to work. Um, I think they were building airplanes and different type of union jobs. Central LA that becomes a ground zero like New York and Chicago. So there's a renaissance going on in Central LA. If I'm not mistaken, in Central LA. Yeah, Central Avenue, if I'm not mistaken. And I'm thinking back because when you look into John Dolphin, you see how all these things connect? I'm going to show you. So Petey Wheatstraw, many years later, is Dolomite, who does a movie and played a character of Petey Wheatstraw, the devil's son-in-law. But you got to remember what Dolomite was doing. He was utilizing Black folkloristic storytelling of the past, just like Mance Lipscomb, who we're going to speak of, and Elijah Cox. But what does that have to do with John? I just said his name. I can't believe it. John Dolphin. Well, Dolomite worked in John Dolphin's store. What does John Dolphin have to do with anything? A lot, baby boy. John Dolphin creates a space where Black music is recorded in the back and broke in the front. What do I mean by broke? The front of his store is a radio station. The back of his store is a record studio, recorder studio. And then he had the top DJs there breaking these records, right? I'm going to get to what you say in a second, Brother Brock. So all these things are relevant. And I say all this to say, with a call and response through time and space. So we're talking about outside of the Northeast and the Midwest, a lot of Black folk moves west. And there was a lot of blues and jazz being cultivated in the West. Actually, do I have the book right here? I do have the book right here. So I'm gonna keep you up there for a second, Brock, so I can read it and address what you're saying, my brother. But I want to address something first, because remember, I started off discussing the difference between Louisiana blues, Mississippi blues, right? Matter of fact, let me pull this down for a second, and I'll pull it back up, Brother Brock. And then the idea of these different spaces and things like this, and then the idea of generation, and it all goes to call and response and time and place. So someone else that is part of this blues epistemology camp is Gerald Horne, okay? And here's a great book, Jazz Justice, Racism and the Political Economy of the Music. This book informs on so much. And the reason why I bring this book up, because as what Brother or Dr. Gerald Horne lays out, his discourse is explaining, though it is believed jazz starts in New Orleans, there is resources and documents stating that as it was cultivating in New Orleans, it was in the Bay Area and other places on the West Side, or in maybe not the West Side, the West of the Americas, simultaneously. We also have to remember, most people look at the migration starting in 1914. Then there's some that looks at the migration that's starting post-emancipation in the 1890s, but the initial migrations was well before that, right? So now, before we get move a little further, I want to check out what my brother Brock is saying. I feel like the longevity of the blues has been positive and negative in a sense, with a blessing to have it today. But being that it goes back so far, people look at it like it has mythical elements. And then when they tell stories about Robert Johnson and stuff like that, blues can pick up this weird narrative. But it's definitely the life. Well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about that for a second, right? CC, I see what you're saying. I'm gonna show that in a second because you're talking about the migration. And Don, that's right. BB King was great, and I'm happy that you love country blues because for me, country blues is the root, right? But let's talk about this for a second. We're gonna pull this back up because blues is so. So when we talk about the Black folk of the South, we have to talk about spirituality, whether they're indigenous to the Americas, whether they're indigenous to the Africas, whether they've prisoners and transported to the West Indies and Haiti, or they were born there. The diaspora, so to speak, there is a folk belief that travels, right? So when we think of Christianity or Pentecostal or Pentecost and hoodoo, we speak about this often. These things coexist. This idea of a Black spirituality, which is intertwined with the blues, right? Now, to your point, it gets picked up by those who are not in the know or the inner workings of these spiritual practices, and then they kind of twist these stories up. I definitely agree with you, and then they make it caricature-esque, right? I definitely agree with you on that, but there is a lot. The idea of Robert Johnson, this guy could hear a song and play it. That had nothing to do with a devil at the crossroad. He practiced and worked on his craft. And I believe that's what you're getting to, Brother Brock. Absolutely. What we have here? People from Nolene went west because I-10 passed through. Aha. Okay, now we talking. That's right. Horn starts jazz in Memphis, I think. Well, to my memory, and I'll go back and look. Let me see if I have this high lit, if you will, because I have I have a lot. So let me just show you some. When I read, this is what I do, right? So give me a second before but what I wanted, to your point, I think he lays out that there's many places that claims its origin, or there's many places this traditional Black music is being cultivated. But because of the academic sources of New Orleans, and the collection of these things in New Orleans, I'm trying to remember the school, he says, that's why it's looked at as there. But it is all around. Let me see. The first migration were in the late 1800s. But yeah, I think it was a little bit earlier, but that did happen, and it's ironic. I was just talking about Kentucky because Kentucky, man, it stayed in the Union, if I'm not mistaken, right? CC, it sounds like CCS. It sounds like you want to contribute to the African American folklores, and I think you should do that. I really think you should do that. Okay, I really think you should do that. Please, I really think you should do that. Yeah, you know what I'm saying, man. So thank you, brother. And this goes back to the blues in our conversation as, let's just put it. Let me let this ride. Call and response across time and space, because that's what we're discussing, right? Because the blues is sonic archive of Black American life, right? Young Don said, Big Road Blues. Absolutely. That's right. That's right. So now we're about to get back to Tommy Johnson, but I wanted to look at you all and have this conversation. But before we get to Tommy Johnson, let's just really be clear that in some cases, people believe from post-emancipation to today's digital landscape. And the reason why post-emancipation, see, I'm sorry. Let me look at y'all again. The reason why post-emancipation is usually looked at when we're discussing the blues as we know it is because post-emancipation is where some scholars, or at least documents, are able to, they're more readily available and readily found of a new way of performance and songwriting coming from what you would consider the Black South, Black folk, enslaved Black folk. All these folk weren't enslaved, right? They were not. Some of them were educated and free, and some of them were kidnapped, right? So there's a lot of things going on, right? A lot, and that's one of the reasons why I like Sinners. Sinners showed that back then there was multifaceted groups of Black folk, which I don't think people understand because of how these stories are framed, right? So when you think of the blues, people think post-emancipation because a lot of people don't equate blues prior to emancipation, right? Well, another reason is because it was called reels, right? We have songsters and we have those who sang reels. Reels become blues. We also have slave seculars. I did a whole show on slave seculars. So if you did not see it, you could come back. You can go back and look through the episodes, okay? But I just wanted to really make a point that the blues as we know it did not just start post-emancipation, okay? Particularly if these folks at the turn of the century are singing 100-year-old songs in some cases, right? And then when you have folks that are performing in the 1890s, in the 1910s, you know? Okay. And I thought, absolutely, right? Okay, so I just wanted to lay that out there. So let's get to it. Let's get to it. Now, one of the reasons why I had to give you all this humongous long, what could be considered a drawn out context is because I want to start with early blues of the South, the songs that were not only personal laments but communal codes. And I want us to explore a couple of pieces and how it functions as oral history, as emotional testimony, and cultural resistance, right? So now, what we're going to start with this first, well, this could actually be segment 2, right? Segment 1, we discussed what Black music history is, where it came from, and apparently, I never really defined it. I gave you where it started. I believe you all know it is the celebration of Black music on the Americas, the contributions made by composers and singers and the like. Okay, so now, peace. Thank you. So now, segment 2 is the blues as testimony. Okay. The blues as testimony, and this is where we start with Brother Tommy Johnson, again, who prior to Robert Johnson, he makes the claim he sells his soul to the devil at the crossroads, where I don't remember Robert Johnson ever saying that. I remember this being a rumored or something kind of started by those who, I guess, own his name, what have you. Okay, so this segment, we want to focus on how the blues functions as a form of oral testimony, okay? It's a way for Black artists to bear witness, again, to personal pain, collective struggle, and social conditions. Now, something else that I say often, some of you, I don't know how many of you heard me say this, but blues is the humanities, because the blues is the discourse of the human condition. All right? Let me just write that down for y'all if y'all want to see it again. The blues is the discourse of human condition. So now I'm writing this as we're talking. So if it doesn't come across too grammatically correct, is because I'm writing this on the spot as we are having this conversation. The blues is the discourse of the human condition, okay? I'm sure that could be written grammatically better. Just bear with me. We're rocking out right now, okay? So now, through songs of Tommy Johnson, for this particular segment, we're going to look at songs of a song from Tommy Johnson, Mance Lipscomb, and Rube Lacy, okay? And again, I pretty much gave you a piece of the rundown, but let me just say Tommy Johnson was born in 1896, okay? Considered a Delta blues musician, and he recorded in the late 1920s. A lot of folk recorded in the late 1920s, and I say that because this is the boom, if you will. The first recorded song at the turn of the 1900s was Mamie Smith. And let me rephrase that. The first recorded blues song to go platinum is Mamie Smith. And there's a gentleman that I interviewed that wrote a book about it and talks in detail about it. But so now, Tommy Johnson was known for his eerie falsetto. And really, really, when you're looking at how people write up how these folks was operating, and I'm not saying this guy didn't have a great blues technique. Let me see, but because he had a song, Maddie, I think he did something like that with a lot of his songs. Yeah, so pardon me, because that's not even in tune. But I was thinking of I think the song's called Old Maddie or Poor Maddie. So anyway, he was born near Terry, Mississippi, right? By 1914, he was supplementing his income by playing local parties with his brothers Major and Liddell. Okay. Another one that was in the Dockery Plantation area. He was at the Webb Jennings Plantation, but Dockery Plantations comes up often when talking about the blues. Okay. One of these, but a lot of people come, they pass through there. So by the 20s, he was, I would say, solidified or a serious musician that was traveling around the South in different places, and he was accompanied a lot of times by Papa Charlie McCoy. I think a lot of us would know Papa Charlie McCoy, if I'm not mistaken. Isn't that who ran around with Memphis Minnie? Right? So what we want to talk about is his song, Canned Heat Blues. So now, Tommy Johnson made his first recording in 1928, allegedly for Victor or Victoria Records. Okay. Now, in Canned Heat speaks of drinking methanol from the cooking fuel of a sternal, right? The song features the refrain, "Canned Heat, Mama, sure Lord is killing me." Okay. Now, there's a group called Canned Heat that took their name from this song. Okay. And then there's another song, Big Road Blues, inspired Canned Heat. Okay. So now, I mentioned Chris Thomas King, who played Tommy Johnson in "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?", where he was found or supposedly going to sell his soul at the crossroads in this film. All right, so we're getting a lot of backstory here. We're going to talk about Lead Belly too. We got Lead Belly up here too. Okay. Buddy Borden was playing the blues. Absolutely. Absolutely. Buddy was definitely playing the blues. No doubt about it. Brass blues. All right. I'm going to keep that up for a little. Matter of fact, I'll change that real quick back to this. I like them both. All right, let's get to it. So, I want to read the lyrics to the song to you all, and then I want us to have a discussion, and I'm going to share a couple of things. I got questions, the whole thing, all right? So let's go to I'm not going to read the whole song, but crying can heat, mama crying, sure Lord killing me. Crying can heat, mama sure Lord killing me. Takes Al-Karub to take these can heat blues. Repeat. I woke up this morning with can heat on my mind. Just woke up this morning, can heat was on my mind. Woke up this morning with can heat on my mind. Lord, on my mind. Cry, Lord, Lord, I wonder. Can he, Lord, killing me? Think Al-Karub is tearing apart my soul. Because brown-skinned women don't do the easy roll. What we talking about here? I woke up this morning, cried can heat around my bed, running here. Somebody take these can heat blues around here. Somebody and take these can heat blues, crying, mama, mama, mama. Crying, can heat killing me. Plead to my soul, Lord. They're gonna kill me dead. What are we talking about? What is he talking about? A desperate act among poor, often displaced black men during the Jim Crow era, drinking sterno, can heat. The folklore, a lived warning in communities coded survival text. Could it be? Well, I want to ask you all a question, and I would like some answers from my tribe. The first question would be, what do you think can heat represent in the cultural context of the 1920 Black South? Okay, I see CCS already answered, and I like that answer. Possibly, you very well could be right. Now, before I answer, I want to see if anybody else would like to and we still use sternos, right? How many times we have a barbecue, a cookout, we still use it, don't we? So what does can so are y'all saying that you believe that's what canned heat represent, just the sterno, or could it symbolize both literal poverty and psychological escape? Now I'm gonna put this back up in a minute because I got a couple of more questions. Oh, you know what? I can. Y'all know we keep it a buck here. I told you I got notes, so for me it's a little weird looking to the side. Sometimes I just keep my notes here in front of me. But we also have to remember, folk medicate in their own way, and this is way before mental health or taking care of your mental health was popular narrative. You know, at this time that wasn't the conversation. I need to take care of my mental health. At that time, it was you know, people drank out of depression. They drank out of the reflection of economic abandonment. And we're talking about the 1920s. So how many people? Somebody who was a CCS that mentioned blues epistemology. So we're talking about the plantation industry complex of the 1920s, the idea of the New Deal, and then how the response from the plantation complex and the exploitation of labor and the disenfranchisement of folk from their land. And this dude is talk about canned heat. Think about it. Absolutely. 1,000%. Okay. I would imagine it is, because if anyone tasted moonshine, it tastes like a can of heat. So, you know, but it's what it is. I'm telling you, I'm not, if you tasted it, you know I'm not lying. It'll put hair on your chest. So now let's ask this one. And again, this is, we're talking about how folk dealt with situations in a particular place. And there was multiple situations that caused what we come to find out, PTSD, right? This is all blues ecology. All right? Stay with me. You want to every week I talk about blues ecology, okay? I'm gonna ask another question. I'm kind of want to move to the next one, but I'll ask a couple more questions. I want y'all to answer. This is very reciprocal. This is not me just lecturing to y'all. I want y'all part of this like you've been, and I love it. Okay. How is, and who mentioned addiction? CCS mentioned addiction. How is addiction narrated as both literal and metaphorical destruction in this song? And so remember, understanding blues as also a time capsule, right? Allowing us to understand what's happening in the moment at that time. So we're actually living in a Jesus. Would it be multi-generational? Lady Day definitely falls in line with what we're discussing. So, well, I'll just say, you know, he delivers fuses of physical suffering with spiritual lament, right? I'm going to say that again, spiritual lament. Physical suffering with spiritual lament. Now, don't that sound like the blues? Why is lament so important? You know, if I have everything here, you know I have two Bibles here, actually. There's one here, and I got one in my hand. I got Voodoo and Hoodoo. Man, I got a whole bunch of stuff here that has to do with the actual spiritual connection of the people to their expression. But lament, if the blues, hold on, I gotta post this. If the blues is the discourse of the human condition, that means lamenting is part of the blues. And in the Bible, it talks about lamenting in multiple scriptures and for multiple reasons, right? And here we go. My next question I had to. Sometimes I be ahead of myself and I don't even know it, and then I catch up with myself at the right place. Can this song be heard as a blues lament and a social document? Please, folks, I'm going to sit back and give y'all a couple of minutes. I'm going to take a sip of my mushroom happy coffee. And listen, when I say my happy coffee, it is not spiked this evening. So I don't mean happy in that way. This is a healthy coffee, helps brain function. Get at me. I'll let my wife explain it to you because she sells this. I'm going to take a sip of my coffee, my happy mushroom coffee, happy healthy mushroom coffee, while you answer, can this song be heard as a blues lament and a social document? Now, I kind of gave you the answer, but I want to hear your answer. What do you think? Because this is a discourse between the blues people. Nobody wants to answer? Come on. Help me out here, y'all. Now, I should be live while I'm waiting. I should be live on Instagram. I don't know what's happening on Instagram. Instagram is weird. Okay. We can go with the yes. All right. Okay. So I'll just kind of read off my notes here. And I'll be like, it's a test. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Now, we've been to church, so a lot of us, and we understand church testifying and how that's separate from court testifying. Now, I am a citizen, a law-abiding citizen, but I do want to make that distinction and that clarification. I'm talking about the testimony of saints in church. And as a blues lament and a social document, Can Heat Blues is a testimony of systematic neglect. Okay, so that goes back to the crutch or the roots of blues epistemology and a very strong or significant section of blues ecology. That systematic neglect is part of the plantation complex, right? There we go. Now we talking. That's right. Delta Blues. You better know it, young Don. That's we talking about the Delta Blues. And in the Delta Blues, when you're hearing the blues note is crying. You know what I'm saying? The blue note is crying. The slide, when it goes down, for me, I love when it goes down the G chord. Excuse me, the G string. That's the fourth chord or the third chord going from high to low, or the fourth chord going from low to high. That G chord is that's where the emotion lies for me, right? But when you think about systematic neglect, you think about blues ecology that Jack Dappa Blues speaks of. Think about blues epistemology that Clyde Woods lays out. Think about why I don't like the blues that Brian Foster lays out. Because in all of these moments, we can even talk about a couple of books that I talk about often, which is The Half Has Never Been Told, All God's Children. Here's another good one. Oh, wait. I brought this up recently. The Warmth of the Other Sun. The Warmth of the Other Sun. What's happening? Is that my guy or my little lady? It's my guy. What's happening, young man? The Warmth of the Other Sun talks about the migration, and one of the families it follows, they want to get away from the South. They want to get away from what they call backwood people. Now there's a book, but I read the actual article about it, or no, the chapter. I read the chapter. I think it's called the Beginning of Soul Food. I'm gonna lots of finger slides. That's right. You know what it is, Don. Let me find this article, and it talks about the migrants from the South going to Chicago, messing up the relationships between assimilated Negroes and assimilated Europeans. Both groups assimilated into a way outside of their traditional being, and then the migrants come and apparently disrupt this. But in disrupting it, they corner a market, allowing them to be part, I guess to solidify themselves in the space, because both sides were not liking them. And this is the birth of the concept of country food or soul food. And if my memory serves me correct, Malcolm X is the first person that calls it soul food, food for the soul. Here's two good books too that will help you with some blues. Okay. And my man Tony, hopefully I'll be speaking to him soon. And Dr. Shiro, she's a great scholar, right? So anyway, okay, let's move on. And those books inform. The reason I went to The Warmth of the Other Sun more so because we're talking about systematic neglect, and in systematic neglect in time, space, in calling history around time, space, and place. We also want to talk about this as the oral history that's being encoded within the verse, right? That's right, right? So these are all the things that we want to kind of think about as we think about the blues and that particular song, but we're going to break down a few other songs. So let's go to the next one, because I try not to stay so long on one, but we have to kind of bring all the stuff together. My role, besides performance, is to give the context or put in the context, right? So now this is Mance Lipscomb, okay? Yeah, I know you're not hearing any music because I'm not playing any music this evening. I'm reading the lyrics and we're discussing it. There's no music playing this evening, okay? So now, Mance Lipscomb, who I love to death, Mance Lipscomb is a songster, if you will. He performs reels, old time music, all of the above, right? Folk music, black folk music, literally and figuratively, right? He's a guitar virtuoso, and I believe I said he plays reels. So he's playing prior. Got you. Okay. Well, you know what? I'm sorry. I mentioned slides. I played a lick, and then Don mentioned a lot of finger sliding because I was discussing that the G string is my favorite place to lay that slide on because that's where the emotion is for me. And young Don, who's a musician and plays music with my son and daughter, and their other friends, they he's seen me perform and he's seen me work that slide over. So and I look forward to them working slides over. No problem. No problem. This is what we're here for. That's why I and that's why I keep trying to engage you and everyone here. I'd rather you ask so we can discuss it, It's all good. So Mance Lipscomb kind of is like a Henry Thomas. If y'all not familiar with Henry Thomas, you can go look at or listen to the interview I did with Dom Flemings about Henry Thomas. You can also go and see a short video I did that was sponsored by oh my goodness. Please don't get mad at me, Sally. Was it Sally Benenson in her record label, and I did something about Mance Lipscomb as we were raising awareness of the Texas blues. You know what I'm saying? So Mance Lipscomb was a songster and a storyteller, ultimately, all right? And he has a song called So Different Blues that we're going to look at as he captures the emotional complexity of the human condition. Because remember what we said, the blues is, and if I didn't spell it right, remember I did that on the spot. But he captures the emotional complexity of the human condition through his words and performance, vocal performance and delivery. Now, just to be clear, one of the reasons right now I'm not playing any music is because we're on YouTube and we're streaming live. When we get our online radio station, we could do this live with music being played, and hopefully we can engage like this and talk and really, really build a community around the real blues, right? So now, with that being said, Mance Lipscomb's name is Bo D. Glenn, okay? Lipscomb. Another one born in 1895. Now, I happen to know, I believe Son House was born around that time too, if I'm not mistaken. And they were trying to say he was born at another time. I really don't want to get into that right now. It's just that there's a lot of people who profess knowing things about these people, Well, anyway, so he comes from Texas or near Texas. His father was born into slavery in Alabama. But guess what? Mance Lipscomb is indigenous to the Americas. So they tried to say that he's half African American and half Native American. I'm not sure how that works. You're either half African and half indigenous, or you're Black American, which is indigenous, right? But it is very clear and is documented that he is of indigenous origin, which is something that those of you who take this journey with me know I speak about often, particularly as it comes to and with the blues, right? Because my people's bloodline is in that mix as well, okay? So now, I just wanted to make that point. And then, just like most other great musicians of his era, during the revival and the folk revival, this is when they get their resurgence, and stuff like this. All right, and albums are made and things like this. Okay, just fine. And he also played a finger picking style. They coined it dead thumb. All right, they coined it dead thumb. Okay, and these are all, or this is a style cultivated in and near Texas. And I believe, I don't know if this person taught him or just helped him as a musician, right? A blind musician. Okay, so now we're going to talk about this song. Well, I'm going to read some of the lyrics. So different blues, and this is in C position. Okay, in standard tuning. So if anyone wants to play or learn this song, you can go listen to it. It's in C position in standard tuning. Okay. Ever wake up with the so different blues anytime? Ever wake up with the so different blues and you couldn't get on your Monday morning shoes? Mama, here's my stockings. Go bring me my shoes, I say. Here's my stockings. Go bring me my shoes. My girl done quit me. I got the walking blues. Yonder she go walking down the railroad track. Yes, she is. Yonder she go walking down the railroad track. Got all my money. She left me that empty sack. She's walking down the road with the suitcase in her hand. Yes, she is. Walking down the road with the suitcase in her hand. She done quit her husband trying to follow some no good man. Baby, you may go. You may try to stay. I say, you may go, may try to stay. Get to thinking about me. You want to come back home someday. Ain't never loved but 4 women in my life. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Because you know why I'm saying uh-oh, because I done heard 3 lyrics from Son House already. Ain't never loved but 4 women in my life. I say ain't never loved but 4 women in my life. My mama, my sister, my sweetheart, and my wife. Okay, hold on. Before we keep going, I'm gonna read that. I want to know who know what that lyric is and what I'm talking about. Why I'm yelling Son House. Coffee is good. Who know what that lyric is and why I keep yelling Son House? What song is it from? I ain't never loved before in my life. My mama, my kid sister, my sweetheart, and my wife. What song that from? What song is that from? I'm going to give y'all a couple of minutes while I drink some of my coffee. Happy coffee, that is. Mushroom coffee. Come on now, you got to know. If you don't even have to be a performer, if you're a blues listener, you appreciate the blues. If you listen to it, ain't never loved but 4 women in my life. My mama, my kid sister, my sweetheart, and my wife. Who said, well, I told you who said it. Son House. What song did he say it in? Come on, somebody, anybody. You know what he said it in? He said in Death Letter Blues, Mississippi Farm, not Mississippi Farm, Mississippi Levee Camp Blues. He said like 3 or 4 songs, but mostly he said it in Death Letter Blues. And this is something that we also need to discuss because there's quite a few pieces here that are familiar that I've heard between Son House, Willie Brown, Skip James, Charley Patton, um, Rube Lacy, and a few others, because we were talking about a shared dialogue, a shared narrative, right? And for me, a lot reminds me of Son House because that's who I subscribe to, right? Amongst others, but there's a few things here. You know, the Walker Blue, Robert Johnson. Actually, I'm sorry, I missed two. Robert Johnson and Muddy Waters. All these lyrics and these licks, they're shared. You feel me? They're shared amongst our people, right? It's a shared dialogue. So now, with that being said, I'm gonna tell you the song again, so you can look it up, and then now I'm gonna ask some questions, and we're gonna deal with it. So Different Blues, okay? So now I'm gonna throw this picture back up, but we could talk. You know I'm here. What makes this blues different? Is it emotional, spiritual, or is it a generational change? What y'all thinking? It sure is. I love the G string. Well, I'll tell you this. Honestly, it is all three: emotional, spiritual, and it's generational. And there's a change, and there's a reflection. It's an inward reflection. It's reflective blues, not reflective of the blues. It is reflective blues, right? It's a it's different from there's different type of blues performances. Yep. That's right. That's right. And Son House said it again, is the blues is relationship, right? Well, let me ask you this. How does Lipscomb embody the griot tradition through guitar and story? Sister Tafora, what's happening with you? Wait, hold on. I got to take this picture off real quick. Sister Tafora, this for you. This is for you. Okay, I'll put the picture back. So how does he how does of what y'all know, and what I just read, and if you've listened to any of his songs, not to mention some of the things that I shared with you of his background, how do you think he embodies the griot tradition through guitar and story? It's not a trick question, and I know y'all don't think that, but I just had to go on record saying it. I'll give y'all a couple of minutes. You know what I'm gonna do? Take a sip of my happy coffee. It tastes really good. Now remember, Mance Lipscomb was singing reels. He was singing. It's considered a songster. He's really a tradition bearer. He could be considered a folklorist, if you will, right? All right. So I'll say what I think, and again, y'all could just chime in when and how you want. Okay. I'll put it down so y'all can see. I don't know how weird it is. It just and you hearing my face, my voice from back there. But he again, Mance Lipscomb, Henry Thomas, Elijah Cox. These guys. It is more, but these three specifically, and for the point I'm making, they're folklorists like Bessie Jones, right? They are practitioners that bring and teach the tradition forward into the next generation, right? Their performance, their song, uh, it embodies memory, right? Factamundo, Factamundo. You know, he's a storyteller. So now, when you think of any tradition keeper or bearer, any cultural keeper or bearer, any practitioner, um, and not just in the sense of wanting to be a professional musician, right? But wanting to be a vessel, a conduit of traditional expression. Storytelling is a major part of that. Faith-based, folk belief, spirituality, all of the like. These are story-based functions, if you will, right? Proverbs, you know. So Mance Lipscomb, Son House falls in line with this as well to me, and there's quite a few others, but there's this thing where they're fully engaged in the process of storytelling. All right, we're gonna move on because we've been rocking for a while, and I'm happy y'all hanging out. Um, we're gonna talk about Rube Lacy. Rube Lacy, who, man, I spoke about him a lot. I also did an interview with David Evans, which you can find on this channel. Reuben Lacy was a serious musician. He gathered all, a lot of these cats come from him. Papa Staples, Charley Patton, Son House, Willie Brown, uh, Howlin' Wolf. Quite a few folk come from Reuben Lacy, uh, who, give or take, I don't necessarily believe he was born in 1901, but I'll just leave that there. Uh, He was a blues singer. In 1928, he recorded two songs, Mississippi Jailhouse Grown and Hamhound Crave, for Paramount Records. I'm gonna share Hamhound Crave lyrics, okay? Because how it's described, with wit and imagination, Rube uses food metaphors to comment on appetite, desire, and want, right? And this falls in line with social, economic, and individual and collective desire, right? Absolutely. Um, and when we're discussing blues, when we're discussing folklore, when we're discussing tradition and cultural engagement, remember I just spoke about soul food. Food is a big part of this, not just the actual uh, process of making it or eating it. We can add what it is and the seasons and all of that, but everything that happens around the creation of the food, everything that amplifies the desire of the food or the desire of wanting to give the food. This is all part of the blues, right? So let me just read some of this lyric, okay? You can read my letter. You can read my letter, baby. Sorry. Now you sure don't know my mind. You can read my letter. Now you sure don't know my mind. So that song just really jumped off in my head. uh, when you think I'm loving you, I'm leaving all the time. I ain't got nobody now. I'm all here by myself. I ain't got nobody now. I'm all here by myself. I ain't got nobody now. I'm all here by myself. Let me be your sometime now till you're always come. Let me be your sometime now till you always come. And I'll do more for you now. You're always ever done. I don't want no hog head. Don't eat no chitlins. Uh-oh, here we go. Don't want no spare rib. Don't eat no backbone. Mama got a ham bone. I wonder, can I get it boiled? Ooh, you talking country food. Church, the bells are ringing. The preacher preaching. Secretaries are writing. The members shouting. The dirty deacon done taking my gal and gone. Why the deacon got to be dirty in all these dang stories? Woo. And all his children now, Papa, trying to sing my song. Let me be your rocker now till your straight chair come. Let me be your rocker now till your straight chair come. And I'll rock you easier than straight chair ever done. Woo. I know that song. I mean, he's talking about chitlins, talking about ham bone spoiling, ham bone boiling. He's talking about the preacher preaching, the secretaries are writing, the members are shouting, and the dirty deacon done took his woman. Lord have mercy. Lord have mercy. What y'all know about that song? So how's food the metaphor in this song and in this blues tradition? Now I'm gonna go into it because we I'm usually on for 90 minutes, so I'm gonna go into it because I think what we're gonna have to do is my segment that was gonna be my segment 3, environmental blues. We're gonna pick it up there next week, and I'm gonna start with Rube Lacy. Environmental blues, just to let y'all know, we're gonna be looking at blues songs functioning as a record of environmental crises and displacement. Okay, we'll do that next week. But before we do that, before we get out of here, let's just drive these couple of points home. Okay, so how does food serve as a metaphor in this space and in this blues tradition, right? So what I believe, and then you could just chime in, obviously, and I'll make sure that everybody know what y'all thinking too, okay? The food is symbolic for survival. It is desire. It is pleasure. It is scarcity. I'll also say it's sacred, right? The song, it's like, some people may say or could believe that the collards, the ham, it is a metaphor for a desire, a want. But I would also go for saying a yearn, because now because there's a couple of mixed messages, but one message that wasn't mixed, the dirty deacon done took his woman and left. It's not funny, but ironically, and this is not only the only blues topic, and a lot of times what people are starting to understand, these ideas of man and woman relationships that go awry, it's not even about a man and a woman. It could be about a worker and his boss, a laborer and his climate, his space. Right? I have a song What did I name the song? I don't even remember what I named the song, but it's really, you know what? Have I played the song? I don't know if I played it publicly, but it is in a little short documentary I made. I'll be recording it soon. I'm trying to remember what I called the song, but what I will say is you may think I'm talking about a woman, but I'm not talking about a woman at all. It is definitely in the tradition of blues utilizing a broken relationship to express and tell the story of social, economic, political disenfranchisement, you know? And the reason why, because I'm like, did I even title this song? I don't know. So understand, we're discussing these metaphors, and I'm just, I don't want to say I'm just pulling things, but I'm giving general concepts, hoping that you take what I say, go look and look further, right? Take it further. Just take this as the root, the proper context of what's going on, and then dig deeper, right? But I want you to also understand these lyrics, these stories are not just about man and woman relationship, but it's often coded for safety, and maybe not even just for safety. Maybe it's coded for tribal understanding. Everybody's not supposed to be understanding who and what you're talking about. Food and music are definitely expressions of love. Just on a side note, how many of you cooked and were upset about something and the food came out bad? And when I say bad, it wasn't even that it was horrible, but it didn't have the taste you were looking for because you weren't in that space of love. But then you go back to another time when you or one of your loved ones cooked and they were in a great loving mood and the food reflected that as you ingested it, right? So absolutely, Stephanie, absolutely. Right. That and it's like what it's always a deacon wilding. Allegedly. Allegedly. Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Muddy Waters is awesome. He's one of my favorites too. The lineage is Son House. Well, let me just be very clear. The quick lineage, at least particularly for me, Son House, Robert Johnson, Muddy Waters. But there's so many in between too, right? And that's what I was talking earlier about Mance Lipscomb's song that I've heard those songs in all of those gentlemen that I mentioned lyrics, right? Okay. What does this song of Rube Lacy tell us about folk humor and coded social critique? Because now we get into the nitty gritty. And it's over here somewhere. Because I was just telling a colleague or a friend about, and people still try to discredit this guy, Lawrence Gellert, right? And he wrote a book about Black protest songs. I speak about this often. One of the reasons is because Steve, who wrote the book about Lawrence Gellert, I read his book and I reviewed it, and I really liked his book, and I also liked the idea of what Lawrence Gellert stood for. And I didn't like the fact that he was discredited. At least to my understanding, he was discredited for saying Black folk songs had more meaning than what some academics or collectors portrayed or framed, you know. And so he did this a project called I believe it was a Black protest song or songs of protest, something like this. I can't really remember. It's over here somewhere. And they've been trying to discredit this project for such a long time. And here's the issue, and this goes back to everything we're kind of discussing right now. Excuse me, because there's multiple meanings in these songs. Some of these songs are based in folk belief where they're guidance, right? Proverbs, somebody or survival, words of survival, laments, lamentation, you're to lament to God and he sees your bleeding heart, or there's just so many I'm jumping, but there's so many nuances to these lyrics in these songs. It is disrespectful at best to kind of not understand the depth. Now, that doesn't mean all songs have depth and are that deep, right? Some songs are just what it is. Like a loaf of bread sometimes is just a loaf of bread. Every loaf of bread is not filled with seeds and all types of different things to help you, your health, your survival, and your process. Some there's songs just for pure entertainment or just for pure humor, but there's other blues songs that do more, is all I'm saying. So now in this situation, what does this song by Rube Lacy tell us about folk humor and coded social critique? And what he's kind of saying is well, okay, on a surface level is hunger and poverty. That's a very surface level. But I believe it's more than hunger. It's more than being impoverished. I know the song. I listen to the song. I listen to the lyrics. I hear the lyrics. I read the lyrics. I think of Son House's Preaching Blues, which is another social critique on the church itself, on the behavior of the community, of the group, of the people, and what's happening. And a critique on his self, his position in this world, in this space, in this culture at this time, right? Which again, this song and Preaching Blues, the original one, and the later on one, function the same for me. Because both Rube Lacy and Son House are raising critiques about the church, the people in the church, but also their role, not only just there, but in this relationship of society, not just this relationship of man and woman, right? There's something we could think of that I would like to call culinary blues. But we could talk about that next time. Hey, what's up, Jordan? 1,000%. 1,000%. 1,000%, Jordan. I agree. Definitely have layered meanings. So you could so instead of doing a Gwen Stefani where she's writing songs about the guy, I think he's the guitarist or the bassist, and everybody in the band, they're recording this song, and everybody in this room knows she's talking about him, and that had to be the most uncomfortable recording sessions, even though the music was phenomenal because of so much emotions. Yes, you can actually write coded songs about somebody sitting right next to you. Now, I would never tell you to admit that, because then people are going to be like, yo, is that about me? So awkward indeed. That's right. That's right. That's right. Sometimes it's necessary. And I would go as far as say now it's her blues. Because again, and let me just draw this off, the blues is the discourse of the human condition. The blues is the discourse of the human condition. The blues is the discourse of the human condition. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. All right. So listen, I went way over time, and it's all right. I'm happy y'all rock and rolled with me. This is part one, so we're probably going to go the whole month of June discussing the blues is Black sonic folklore, call and response across time and space. The folklore and blues. This is episode one of this series. As you know, we I guess tend to do series like this. And one of the reasons why I do that, because I feel even as a teacher and as a student, sometimes just going into something in one moment, it takes some time to break it down, discuss it, receive it, and go through it. You know, you can't just, if you see my notes in the segments, we can't go through all this in one time. You know, we need to discuss this. This is blues ecology. Jack Dappa Blues, Lamont Jack Pearley introduces to you blues ecology from the blues narrative. Okay? You want to get some merch? That's where you go. If you were taught, if you feel edified, if you feel excited, if you were given a new perspective, please, I implore you, tap into the Cash App, the Venmo, and show your appreciation. And the PayPal, okay? Because we work hard over here, just like y'all work hard. I want to give you my Twitter account, but it's still in limbo. So I'll give you my Instagram. Please follow me there if you're not already. Also follow the African American Folklorist. Man, the new issues are over there. I'm not going to get up and show you, but just monitor my pages. If you haven't seen any of the images yet, you will be seeing it, and it's going to be available very soon. We are working on the new version of the African American Folklorist website. Next, we'll be working on Jack Dappa Blues radio website. And please become a Patreon member, okay? You become a Patreon member. You are accessible to the Jack Dappa Blues Reflexive podcast, where I discuss my journey in the field as a folklorist and ethnomusicologist, good, bad, indifferent experiences that I had. Sometimes if I messed up, sometimes if I did good, sometimes if I don't know what the hell I did. But its purpose is to give you a inner working of the actual discipline and field. If you are looking to be a community scholar, independent scholar, you know, and then you can always translate that into contributing to the African American folklorists. And then there's Jack Dappa Blues. So when you become a Patreon, you'll get first dibs on music, my blues blog, and things that I don't speak about here, but I speak more in detail there. Also, be on the lookout of the masterclass. We did our first one a month or so ago. Right now, it's released on the Patreon. Genealogical information, and we'll be doing some more stuff like that very soon. I think the next one may be about the archive. All right, I appreciate that, Frosty. So, all right, y'all. So thank you for bluesing with me again. Next Sunday, same blues time, same blues channel, and we're gonna start off with environmental blues, okay? Now, if you think of anything that you didn't have an opportunity to share with us here, always go back on the feed and drop a line, okay? All right, so enjoy the rest of your night. Enjoy your peoples tomorrow, and I'll tell you one other thing. If you haven't seen Sinners, go see that movie. Peace, love, and keep bluesing.